What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, guys, well, we have the Phase 2 white paper part 2, so this is another post. I think there's going to be 4 to 5 is what Matt said. So we had the first one, which was just the flow chart of how all the resources were going to work, and now we have the actual resources, what they'll do, where they'll come from. So I've read through this once, just did a quick skim through. You can see here that it is a 9-minute read. I'm not going to read the entire thing to you, but I do want to go through it in detail. That's the point of these videos. We can do a little bit of a deeper dive. So strap in and let's take a look. So here's the first post. All right, mystical content of Praetoria, natural, magical. Okay, so all this cool stuff. So let's just jump down into the details. Natural resources. All land plots, with the exception of those with a castle or keep, are able to produce a specific kind of natural resource. So each natural resource is listed below, along with a description of how it can be used, in addition to which types of land plots can produce it. So you can see here that grain is one of the natural resources produced by farm buildings and used as food for workers. It can be milled into elemental foods, which are much more efficient. But the only terrain types that can create grain are plains, river, bog, and lake. Now, wood can be produced by building a logging camp building, used as a fuel source for refining to create planks in the sawmill building. So already we're getting to the point here where it's just like, okay, if you want to make grain, awesome. If you want to make elemental foods, you're going to need, additional things on top of that. You're going to need not just a farm on one of these places, but you're going to need a second building potentially to create the elemental foods. You can see this very clearly with wood. You can build a logging camp on a swamp, forest, tundra, or jungle, right? But then you'll need to build a second building in order to turn that wood into or create planks. So wood is the natural resource you can produce, and then you can send it over to the sawmill to create planks. Now, if you don't want to do the sawmill part, maybe you don't even have a second building, maybe you just focus on building all of your, like for me, I have 2 forests. Well, actually, I really only have 1 forest. I have a forest and a jungle. So I could choose to do, on one, mine for resources, and on the other one, build a building that turns one of those into the other. So land is going to be super complicated, and I am here for it, man. This is going to be super fun because it's not going to be what it is now where, there's just an overabundance of resources. I mean, think about food, for example. It's only going to come from these places, and everybody needs food. In the same way, everybody's going to need wood in order to produce and probably maintain their building. There's maintenance right there. All right, so let's jump down into stone. So these can be produced by the quarry buildings built on a desert, canyon, or hills. These are refined into elemental stones, which are needed for building construction and maintenance. All right, so you will need wood and stone for maintenance. And it looks like ores are going to be the same thing. Now, ores are a little bit different. There are 5 different types of ores that can be produced by a mine building. The ores are listed in order the most common to rare. Let's see. Okay, so higher level mines have higher chances of finding more rare ores. Ores can be smelted into metal bars in a foundry building. So again, you'll need a second building, which can then be used in building construction and maintenance. So you're going to need all of these resources to continue maintaining your buildings, which is kind of fun when you think about it. So terrain types: mountain, badlands, caldera. I think that covers all of the different types. And then the ore types in order of rarity. So iron is the lowest, aluminum, copper, titanium, and mithril. All right, now we also have magical resources. So magical resources are only available on land plots that have special deposits of these resources. So it's got to be a magical plot, right? There are 7 magical resources that can be found in Praetoria, 6 that map to each of the magical elements in the game, and then a 7th, which is, let's see, that inhabit the creatures. Okay, so the 6 elemental resources here below. The 6 magical resources as they align with each of the elements, right? So you got Vertulium for life, Ulana seeds for earth, Sparkstone for fire, Bottle storms for water, Reclaim souls for death, Heliostones for dragon. Now the 7th one can only be obtained by building an outpost on occupied plots. So these essences can be combined with any of the 6 magical resources in order to create element-specific essences. So the occupied plots are going to be very, very crucial for combining with each of these elemental resources in order to create the essences needed. We're gonna have to do a second. We'll have to do a second video where we have like the flow chart up next to this one. It's just gonna be too much right now, so we'll continue the deep dive, or we'll call this an overview, and then we can go deep dive into some of like the other elements later if you guys want. Okay, so we have now refined resources. So as we were, alluding to earlier, raw wood, which you can get from building, you know what, I'm not going to keep scrolling back and forth, but the logging camp. So raw wood can be turned into lumber with a sawmill building. Lumber can then be used. All right, so metal bars. This is from the ores, elemental essences. Okay, cool. So these are all the refined resources. We kind of talked about them earlier. Now here's the elemental foods. So grain, right, in its raw form can be combined with elemental essences in a mill building using raw wood as fuel. So you will need wood as well in order to create different types of food that can be consumed by worker cards when working on land. Here are okay, so as we already knew, the units or workers will be much more efficient if given this food, the elemental food, rather than the unrefined grain. Right now, I think they roughly eat through half of what you own at the base PP. So if you want it to be significantly less, you'll go through and get some of this unrefined stuff. Now, what'll be interesting here is you'll probably need to get a mix. Right now, maybe because like all land plots will have like 2 that give a bonus. So for example, I on my keep, or even I'm not even paying attention to what like I have. It's not like on a forest I have all earth, for example. I put whatever the best is there. Now maybe in the future I will focus on getting all earth or all life, because those are the 2 that give a bonus on forest, and therefore then I only have to focus on getting a specific type of elemental food. So that's gonna be kind of another meta that plays into this. So you got Pure Flakes for life, Ulana bread earth, Spark meal for fire, Storm cakes for water, Soul food for death, Helio bars for dragon, elemental stones. Okay, so quartz, limestone. We don't need to read through all of these names. Well, I'm sure we'll get very into it in the future. But let me see if there's anything here. All right, so stones can be infused with elemental essences using, once again, raw wood as fuel. So forests are going to be just as important as the food in the area for just providing fuel to everything. Okay, now we also have special resources. Time crystals is something we are familiar with already. And the reason that these are special is because they aren't harvested or otherwise created from land itself, but instead they are obtained through other methods. So time crystals are something that we have already. This is just more of a ecosystem or economy play where you can speed things up by burning DEC or DECB once that runs out. And so this is going to be, applicable to building construction, building switching, building upgrades. We already have it in the game. Mana crystals will be required to craft item and spell cards. Let's see here. Mana will be required to craft item and spell cards in version 3.0 or phase 3. They can be obtained exclusively through contributing guild power to your Splinterlands guild. There's planned to be a fixed pool of mana crystal tokens per day. Okay, so that's cool. So there's a fixed pool of mana crystals that are given out every day, and the amount that you contribute as compared to the total GP contributed across all guilds in the game. Now, what's going to be interesting here is, do you have to provide it to a specific building? Or is there... Okay, what I'm trying to get at here is, if I'm just is it everything that I'm providing? It doesn't matter which buildings or whatever the case is, or is it going to have to be something extra where I need to put in extra guild power that goes to a land dedicated building? That's not answered here, but hopefully we can get that from Matt. I don't know if I don't know which way I would like it better. It's easier if it's already what you contributed. I think most people would prefer that. But if it's something where you have to delegate extra, that's more DEC to be burned for guild power. So in a way, I kind of like it. I kind of like it in the second position because that just burns way more DEC. Okay, trifoil runes are special resources that is required in the Runology Tower building for scholars to study and produce research tokens. Now, trifoil runes can be obtained by workers in a castle or keep. For the owners of castle keeps plots. Okay, so this is why Matt is talking about how research is going to be much more difficult to get in the future. To produce research, right, you will need additional resources. So in order, this is why he's going so heavy now, because research is actually quite easy to get. You can just set one of your land plots to just get it without doing anything. But in the future, you'll need these special resources from a castle or keep in order to combine with something. Let's see. So research is a non-transferable resource, which is created by providing trifoil runes to worker cards in a Runology Tower building. So you'll need to have a dedicated building for research, right? Excuse me. A Runology Tower, which you will have workers on, They will produce research if you give them trifoil runes, probably, and food on top of that. So research earned by a player will increase their contribution score towards the Ancient Ruins project, which is a whole secret of Praetorian thing. Once enough research has been generated by all players within a particular territory, then the next phase of the reconstruction project can begin. All right, cool. Elixirs. So this is the one, this is what you get for providing liquidity to one of the many pools available on the internal market. So keep in mind, right now we're waiting for the grain DEC LP, but in the future, there's going to be a DEC LP for every resource out there, everything that's listed. That way you can easily go and buy whatever you need. And therefore, elixirs are going to be given out as a resource to anybody providing that. So the amount of elixir earned per DEC worth of liquidity pool to any of the pools will automatically adjust on a periodic basis based on the price of elixir versus DEC. So this is intended to maintain a relatively stable price in DEC for elixir, since more will be given out if the price is above the intended target, and less will be given out if it is below. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the monetary policy for DEC during the airdrop, where they're having it just algorithmically adjusted. I'm going to need to spend more time wrapping my head around that. But that, immediately it's just like, it's an algorithmic kind of stable peg there, which I don't know. I mean, things could get absolutely crazy for whatever reason, but let's come back to that at a later time. Providing providing liquidity and the LPs is probably one of the things I'm most excited about within the game. Just because it's gonna gamify so many DeFi elements just within. It's gonna gamify. It's going to gamify all these DeFi elements. All right, so now desalinization crystals. So this resource will be able to be purchased using a fixed amount of DEC or voucher tokens, and will also be available to be earned through various activities within the broader Splinter's universe, such as loot chests from ranked battles or from guild participation, for example. So this may be something that will be dropping in reward chests or participating in guild brawls. They will be transferable and available within the internal market, just like most other land resources. The exact details around the cost of desalinization crystals and the methods for earning them are still TBD. They can be contributed to the infrastructure projects within each region to gain various benefits for all landowners in region and to earn salt tokens. Now, the salt is something different, right? So there's going to be desalinization crystals and then salt. So this resource is earned by contributing DC, we'll call them DCs, to the infrastructure project within each region. Now, it will be able to be mixed with the existing in-game legendary and alchemy potions. So you'll be able to then trade and transfer these alchemy and basically the potions are going to be tradable in the future if you combine them with salt, is what it's looking like. Now you can get these by contributing desalinization to the infrastructure project. Okay, cool. We'll be able to increase the chances of producing higher rarity and or gold foil versions of the items and spell cards. So, the legendary and alchemy potions that we have right now, you can't just use them on items and spells cards. You'll need to go through this extra process, but they will then become transferable, which should make things interesting. So in a way, it's like, think about the soulbound cards right now. You're getting soulbound potions, which help in opening packs, but in the future, you'll be able to unlock those, and they will be, once they're unlocked, they'll be able to be used on items and spells in the same kind of method. All right, now you got gemstones. Primary use for gemstones will be crafting of item and spell cards. There will be 6 types, one for each element. Players can get gemstones by contributing to the Ancient Ruins construction effort. Gemstones can then be refined in a lapidary building. Refined gemstones will have 4. Okay, so this is just getting out of control now. So each of these gemstones is going to have 4 different rarities that it can be. The higher level the lapidary, the higher chance of producing a higher quality refined gemstone. Please note that refined gemstones will be non-divisible, meaning that players must always have a whole number to balance them. And that is it. So, okay, lots of questions, or people posted some comments here. This is, there's a lot. This is only part 2 of 5, and I'll say this: the first part was just a flowchart. Now we're starting to get more information on resources. My thought is the next couple of parts are going to include information on, I guess, buildings, specific buildings that you can build, and maybe the cost and maintenance for those buildings, and then maybe I don't know what else is in phase 2. Items and spells aren't really in there, but I don't really know what to expect outside of buildings, but this is a lot to digest. I'm going to go ahead and leave the video here. If there's specific things you want me to do a deep dive further into, let me know. But this is all very exciting, and I cannot wait for Land 2.0. I really, 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 really hope that they can get Land 2.0 out, or at least some elements of it, within 2024. I think that'll make land way more exciting for everyone involved. But that is all I have for in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.